All right, these excerpts you've got from Mysteries of Ancient Civilizations, Unveiling the Secrets of the Past, are really something else.
Such treasure trove of material for sure.
I'm ready to, go past just skimming the surface. Like, let's really get into those little details and those theories that people debate back and forth
Yeah.
to get a feel for, these societies, how they lived and how they invented things.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes, why things didn't go so well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's start with a classic one.
Okay.
Those Egyptian pyramids. I mean, everyone knows they're huge, right?
Yeah.
Millions of stones.
That's mind-boggling.
Some of them weigh like 80 tons.
It's incredible, isn't it?
It's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
But let's go deeper than just how big they are.
Okay.
What are some of the less talked about theories about how they were built? I'm especially interested in that idea of internal ramps. Do those even exist?
It's a really intriguing theory.
Yeah.
It suggests that, instead of just using those big external ramps, they might have had like a system of internal ramps
Oh, wow.
built right into the pyramid itself to move the stones upwards.
Wow.
And it's an idea that's kind of divided experts, for years.
Mm-hmm.
Some say, no way, it's impossible.
Yeah.
But others point to like little things in how the pyramids are built that maybe support this idea.
Oh, interesting.
So we often picture, these huge crowds of people just dragging these stones, right?
Right.
But what if it was actually a much smaller group of really skilled workers
Wow.
using these clever internal structures to move the stones?
Yeah.
That changes how we think about how precise they were, how much they planned it all out.
I love that. That's what I love about this, like challenging those old stories we think we know.
Exactly.
It's not just about brute strength, right?
Right.
It's about clever design and skilled craftsmanship.
Exactly.
And speaking of skill, what about how the pyramids line up with the stars?
Oh, yeah.
That's not just random chance, is it?
No.
It shows they really knew a lot about the cosmos, right?
Yeah, the precision, how they line up with the compass directions and certain stars, it's remarkable. It shows they weren't just, great builders.
Right.
They were seriously into studying the night sky.
Wow.
And this astronomical knowledge wasn't just for looks,
Yeah.
It was tied into their religious beliefs and their idea of Ma'at, like the cosmic order of everything.
Right.
Imagine their whole view of the world might be reflected in the pyramids themselves.
Yeah.
That level of symbolism, it's hard for us to even grasp today.
Yeah, it makes you think maybe their purpose was even more complex than we understand. Were they like trying to make a mini version of the universe? That's an interesting thought.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go from the pyramids to another civilization that seems to have had a deep connection with the cosmos, the Maya. They had this incredibly complex calendar system, more accurate than the one we use now.
It is amazing.
But let's go beyond the basics here.
Yeah.
Were there specific Mayan myths or like cycles in their calendar that might have influenced their decisions and maybe even, played a part in their eventual downfall?
The Maya really believed that time went in cycles, marked by these repeating eras, each ruled by different gods.
Okay.
Their calendar wasn't just for keeping track of time.
Yeah.
It was a way to understand their place in the universe and what the gods wanted.
Right.
One theory is that they were so focused on certain cycles in their calendar, especially the Baktun,
Yeah.
that they started to think certain times were like inherently dangerous
Oh, wow.
or unstable, which might have led them to make decisions that, well, weren't sustainable. Just imagine basing huge societal choices on prophecies and how you interpret the stars.
Yeah.
It adds a whole other level of complexity to their story.
It really does. And it challenges our modern, linear view of time.
Right.
They weren't just counting the days. They were trying to like decipher the fabric of existence itself.
Exactly.
And maybe, as you were saying, that sometimes led them down paths that weren't sustainable in the long run.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that even the most advanced societies can make choices that have, unintended consequences.
Yeah, consequences that play out over a long time.
Yeah. That's something we might see reflected in other civilizations as we go deeper into this.
Definitely.
But for now, let's shift gears to another iconic monument with a lot of mysteries surrounding it. Stonehenge.
Oh, yes.
Those huge stones standing there in the English countryside.
It's an incredible sight.
They've sparked so many theories over the years.
Yeah.
Was it just a big solar calendar? Or was there something more to it?
Stonehenge is like a puzzle with lots of pieces. And the fascinating thing is, we might never have the whole picture. The astronomical connections are definitely there, especially with the solstices.
Right.
So it seems likely they used it to track the sun's movements and maybe mark important times for farming.
Okay.
But there's also those burial remains there,
Yeah.
and that adds a whole other layer.
Yeah.
It suggests maybe it was also used for rituals or funerals,
Right.
a place where ancient people got together, not just to watch the sky,
Mm-hmm.
but also to honor their ancestors and maybe even connect with the spiritual world.
So it was like a site with many purposes.
Yeah.
Mixing
Yeah.
science,
Mhm.
spirituality, maybe even a place for both the living and the dead.
Right.
Makes you wonder, if the line between those worlds wasn't so clear-cut for them back then.
It's fascinating to think about.
Speaking of blurred lines, let's move over to the Indus Valley civilization.
Okay.
They had cities, they rivaled ancient Rome in terms of urban planning,
Really advanced.
with really clever drainage systems,
Mhm.
standardized weights and measures, evidence of trade networks.
Oh.
And the thing is, they seem to have done all this without, those big, powerful rulers or giant monuments we usually see in those kinds of societies.
That's what makes them so interesting, right?
Yeah.
Challenge our ideas about how advanced society should be.
Yeah.
We tend to think palaces and temples mean a society is sophisticated.
Right.
But the Indus people, they focused on practicality and efficiency.
Mm.
Their cities were planned so carefully for people to live together.
Yeah.
They really cared about sanitation and managing resources well.
Makes you think maybe they had a more equal society.
Yeah.
Maybe they made decisions as a group without needing one ruler in charge.
It's a possibility, for sure.
It's a cool way to think about it. It makes you wonder if their approach to city planning and social organization, maybe there's something we can learn from that today.
Right.
Especially when we're dealing with things like sustainability and inequality in our own cities.
Absolutely.
But of course, the big question is, what caused their decline? Was it all down to environmental stuff? Or were there other things going on?
Well, the evidence points to a bunch of different things all happening together.
Okay.
Climate change seems like it was a big factor. Maybe changes in monsoon patterns messed with their agriculture.
Right.
But we also have to think about internal changes, maybe in their society.
Yeah.
Perhaps their way of making decisions together, it kind of eroded over time.
Mm.
Or maybe trade routes shifted and that weakened their economy.
Right.
It's likely a combination of these pressures, both inside and outside, that eventually led to their decline.
It's a reminder that even the most organized societies can be vulnerable to things they can't control.
Yeah.
And being resilient doesn't just mean surviving one challenge. It means adapting when the world keeps changing.
That's a good point.
Okay, let's go from a civilization that thrived on being practical to one that's often seen as, the opposite.
Okay.
Atlantis, the ultimate symbol of excess and ambition. Was this legendary city swallowed by the sea a real place? Or just a story Plato made up to warn us?
The legend of Atlantis has captivated people for centuries.
It really has.
And people are still debating if it was real.
Yeah.
Many scholars think Plato was using it as a metaphor, to show the dangers of being too arrogant and how civilizations rise and fall.
Right.
But there are also those who point to some clues that suggest maybe it was based on something real.
Interesting.
The Minoan civilization, they had a very advanced culture. And then suddenly they collapsed after that volcanic eruption on Thera.
Right.
It has some striking similarities to the Atlantis story.
It does, yeah.
You can imagine how the memory of that disaster passed down over generations could have turned into the tale of a lost city under the waves.
It's like a real-life disaster movie that got embedded in our collective memory.
Exactly.
But even if Atlantis itself is a myth, that idea of a technologically advanced civilization destroying itself because of pride, that's a powerful message.
Yeah, it is.
And it's a warning that's maybe even more important today as we deal with the potential consequences of, technology growing too fast and exploiting the environment.
Exactly.
Whether Atlantis was real or not, its power lies in making us question our own choices.
Right.
And the path our civilization is taking.
It reminds us that progress without wisdom can lead to our own destruction.
Well said. Okay, from a maybe mythical city under the sea to a real place that's changing how we understand early human history.
Okay.
Göbekli Tepe.
Yeah.
That's an incredible complex that's way older than Stonehenge.
Thousands of years older.
And it was built by hunter-gatherers, not settled farmers like people thought before.
Really challenges our assumptions.
It really does. What does this tell us about what those early hunter-gatherer societies could actually do?
Göbekli Tepe is a game changer. It forces us to rethink what we thought we knew
Yeah.
about the mental abilities and social structures of hunter-gatherer groups.
Right.
To build something that massive with all those intricate carvings and alignments with the stars,
Yeah.
it would have taken planning, coordination, shared knowledge, things we used to think were only possible with settled farming communities.
It's like they were operating on a totally different timeline than what we thought human history was.
Right.
And it raises so many questions.
Mm-hmm.
What was the purpose of this place?
Mm-hmm.
Was it just for rituals?
Yeah.
Or did it have other uses as well?
Most people think Göbekli Tepe was a center for group worship,
Okay.
where hunter-gatherers from all over came together for rituals and ceremonies, maybe connected to the seasons or the stars.
Right.
But we got to consider other possibilities too.
Yeah.
Could it have been a place to share knowledge or trade or even to settle disagreements?
Interesting. It's like we're trying to solve a puzzle, but only have a few pieces.
Yeah.
But those pieces hint at a much more complex picture of early human society than we imagine.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's shift from a monumental site rewriting history to another set of mysterious features.
Okay.
Those huge drawings etched into the Peruvian desert, the Nazca lines.
Yes. Amazing.
Some of them are miles long,
Incredible.
and you can only really see them from the air, which has led to all sorts of ideas about how and why they were made.
Yeah, it sparked a lot of speculation.
So what's the most likely explanation for these amazing works of art?
The Nazca lines are a real testament to human ingenuity and our fascination with the cosmos.
Yeah.
The most plausible theory is that they were used in religious ceremonies,
Right.
maybe offerings to the gods or trying to appease them
Right.
to ensure a good harvest.
Hmm.
The way they align with celestial events like solstices and equinoxes
Yeah.
suggests a strong astronomical connection, supporting the idea that they were for rituals linked to nature's cycles and the stars.
So like they were using the desert as a giant canvas
Right.
to communicate with the heavens, express their beliefs and hopes, and connect with the forces that shaped their world.
Exactly.
But even with the best explanations, there's still that sense of mystery and wonder about the Nazca lines.
Yeah,
It's a reminder that our ancestors could create things that still amaze and baffle us today.
absolutely.
Speaking of amazement and bafflement, let's talk about those iconic Moai statues of Easter Island.
Oh, yeah.
These massive stone figures, some weighing up to 82 tons,
It's hard to even fathom.
have stood watch for centuries.
Their faces staring out over the Pacific.
Yeah. How did the Rapa Nui people, with what they had, manage to carve, transport, and erect these huge statues?
It's a question that's puzzled people for a long time.
And maybe even more intriguing, why do they make so many?
That's another good question.
The Moai statues are really a testament to human determination and our ability to be both ingenious and, well, maybe a little bit foolish.
Yeah.
The walking theory is a popular one.
Yeah.
It suggests they move the statues upright using ropes and a system of like tilting and rocking them.
Yeah.
Imagine the effort, the coordination, just the sheer willpower to walk these giants across the island.
It's mind-boggling.
It really is. It makes you think about social cohesion and a shared sense of purpose. It's hard to imagine in our world today.
Right.
But the story of Easter Island is also kind of a warning, isn't it?
Yeah. Is.
Their focus on building these statues,
Yeah.
along with deforestation and using up too many resources,
Uh-huh.
it ultimately led to their decline.
Unfortunately, yeah.
It's like a mini version of the challenges we face on a global scale now.
Sadly, yes. Easter Island reminds us that even the most resourceful societies can be vulnerable to the damage we do to the environment and unsustainable practices.
Yeah.
Their story is a powerful lesson about needing to find a balance between what humans want and taking care of the natural world.
It's a lesson that really hits home as we try to figure out our own relationship with the planet.
Yeah.
But before we get too caught up in the potential downsides of progress, let's dive into one last set of mysteries.
Okay.
Those undeciphered scripts that might unlock lost parts of human history. Linear A from the Minoans and the Rongorongo script from Easter Island.
Fascinating, aren't they?
It's like having messages from the past that we just can't read.
Yeah.
Tantalizing glimpses into worlds we're only starting to understand.
Exactly.
What are the chances we'll ever crack the codes of these ancient writing systems? And what can they tell us about the people who created them?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it?
It's frustrating, you know,
Yeah.
having these actual objects, these written records,
Right.
but not being able to fully understand what they mean.
Uh-huh.
It's like standing in front of this giant library,
Yeah.
knowing there's so much knowledge inside,
Right.
but the doors are locked.
Exactly.
So what are some of the biggest roadblocks for researchers when they're trying to figure out scripts like Linear A and Rongo-Rongo?
I think the biggest hurdle is usually just like not having enough context.
Uh-huh.
Take Linear A, for example.
Okay.
We only have a handful of inscriptions, mostly on these clay tablets.
Right.
We don't have anything like a Rosetta Stone, you know, something that translates it into a language we know.
Right, right.
And to make it even more complicated, the known civilization itself is still a bit of a mystery,
Yeah,
which makes it even harder to understand their writing.
makes sense.
With Rongo-Rongo, it's even trickier.
Oh, wow.
We have even fewer examples of the script.
Uh-huh.
And as far as we know, the Rapa Nui people who created it,
The people of Easter Island, yeah.
yeah, they never had contact with any other writing systems. So comparing it to other scripts is really, really difficult.
So it's like trying to solve a puzzle without even knowing what the picture should be. Or if you have all the pieces.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a tough challenge.
But even with all that, there have been some promising discoveries, right?
Yeah, there have been some leads.
Okay.
Especially with Linear A.
Uh-huh.
Some researchers think they've figured out a few words
Oh, wow.
that have to do with farming and religious stuff
Okay.
by comparing it to other ancient scripts from the Mediterranean area.
Interesting.
But it's slow going.
Yeah?
Really painstaking.
I can imagine.
Like putting together a mosaic, one tiny tile at a time.
Wow. Yeah.
And with Rongo-Rongo, progress has been even slower. There's this theory that it might be a logographic system,
Okay.
where the symbols stand for whole words or ideas,
Right.
but without really understanding the Rapa Nui language,
Yeah.
it's incredibly difficult to decode the script.
It just shows that trying to understand the past is a constant journey.
Yeah, it is.
Full of dead ends, but also unexpected discoveries.
Absolutely.
But even if we never completely figure out these scripts,
Right.
the fact that we're trying,
That we're grappling with these mysteries, it says something about us as humans, don't you think?
it definitely does.
It speaks to our natural curiosity,
Yeah.
that desire to connect with the people who came before us, and that longing to understand, the full range of human experience.
I agree.
So as we wrap up this amazing deep dive into all these mysteries of ancient civilizations, what stands out to you as the most important thing we can learn from these past societies?
I think for me, the main takeaway is interconnectedness.
Okay.
We see it in how they related to their environment, in their social structures, their beliefs, everything they did.
Yeah.
The ancient world wasn't just a bunch of separate civilizations.
Right.
It was a network of societies all linked together.
Right.
Each one shaping and being shaped by the others.
Yeah.
Their stories, the good and the bad, remind us that the choices we make as individuals and as a whole, they have consequences that go far beyond our immediate situation. They teach us how important it is to be resilient when things get tough.
Right.
How powerful it is to work together.
Yeah.
And that we always need to balance our ambitions with respect for the natural world.
It's like they're holding up a mirror to our own society.
Yeah.
Showing us what we're capable of, but also our weaknesses.
Absolutely.
By understanding the past, by learning from the choices of those who came before, we can figure out how to create a better future for ourselves and for the generations to come.
That's the key, isn't it?
So to all the history buffs out there, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep sharing the stories of these incredible civilizations.
Yeah.
Their mysteries might never be fully solved, but trying to understand them is a journey worth taking.
It definitely is.
Thanks for joining us on this amazing adventure through time.